I find it really interesting to give your daily, even going to work, a purpose, thinking, and always talking about, why are we doing this? If we come here together every day, what are we moving forward? How do we help make things just a bit better every day? And that is so much relevant. And I always found this, sitting together with the teams and going through that question, which might be a bit philosophical in the beginning, but then it turns out that, you really find your purpose. And I quite like that. It's not an easy exercise, but I would recommend everyone in procurement teams to do so, because it really helps, and it connects you more with the company and what's the company purpose, why are we doing this, and how do we contribute to make sure that this overall purpose can actually be handled. And super exciting. And I want to get to this point that I think is also very interesting for our audience here, is this point about, so not only putting a purpose on it, but also talking about, what are we doing daily? What do we need to consider? What is the importance? What are the business outcomes you're always talking about? And it took me a while to understand what you meant. I got it now. But I think it's very helpful for people listening in here. How do you make sure that you do decide the right things?
Yeah. And, I think, why is it difficult to think this way? Because it's kind of a change in mindset, right? We've been kind of, in our function and in our discipline, we've been trained for many years to react to a demand and fulfill it with perfection. I think we're really good at that in procurement overall, right? We do great sourcing and negotiations and you name it, right? But in the majority of the cases, we react to a demand that has been kind of stated in the business. And I think what we're trying to do with this, approach of co-creation and kind of getting ahead of the game, which is also not a new concept. A lot of people have talked of early involvement, etc. But maybe let me take it a little bit further. What we really want to do is understand what's the opportunity statement, or what is the business challenge first. And actually, it's not always easy to get that, out in the open, because often enough, the business doesn't really know what the opportunity is at hand or what the business challenge is, right? And to scope that out and to really dive into it and put it all in the open, all the risks and ideas and thoughts in itself is already quite a bit of beefy work, right? But, if you think about having it out in the open and then designing or co-creating a solution around that to drive a certain outcome that you both agreed was going to be what good looks like. Yeah. And clearly it's never just one thing that looks good, right? It's multifaceted, and you really, really, really have to think, what outcome is it you want to generate? It's not a deliverable. It's not a milestone you want to achieve. What's the sensation thereafter? Yeah. And even thinking how you articulate an outcome, yeah, in the long run, in the mid run, in the short term, I think takes a lot of practice. And so, we've been definitely working in our organization, not just on the methodology of how do you define outcomes and how do you work towards those, but really, how do you engage the business differently? And then those solutions now become broad, right? They might have a notion of a category approach, right? But they also might have a strong process component. They might have a cultural or a people or an engagement component. You might look to engage externally, but also potentially differently, right? And so it becomes very broad. And I think this is how we're kind of thinking in broad solutions and outcomes across the entire spectrum of the capabilities we have. And that's why we also look to our leaders as orchestrators. They have to understand what the capabilities are that we have in our organization, and that they have to all bring it together in this kind of, let's say, creative process. Now, again, just a realistic kind of spin on it. We don't always operate like that. We still need to get stuff done. And often enough, we need to get stuff done that, is thrown our way. And we do it, and we do it proudly, right? But it's just the transformational aspect of how we want to show up stronger, that we're aiming for as part of our kind of constant transformation.